Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jared Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. And if you want to pursue more into the field of coaching and programming, head to endof3fitness.com. Thanks for listening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jared Moon here with Kyle Schrum. What's up, Kyle?
Hey, what's up?
VD is here. What's up, man?
Konnichiwa, or hello in America.
Would it be howdy in Oklahoma?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Howdy,
what's
partner.
Oklahoma?
And Joe Courtney is here. What's up, man?
Hello. I don't know what they say in Bahrain.
So I feel like this is going to be like a
Konnichiwa.
big update. You guys kind of gave away the updates right there with your locations. I feel like that's the biggest update from
Teaser.
VD hasn't been on the podcast in months. So VD, let's start with you, man. Any updates? What's going on in life?
Oh, Jared, so much, man. Big thing for me right now is training. I'm in flight training right now, learning to fly a new jet. So all of that is taking a lot of my time, which is part of the reason I haven't been on. But also PCSing and all the craziness that comes with that, not having the equipment to actually be on a podcast. All of those things going on the last few months. So I've been kind of quiet, but I'm always watching.
He's always around. So, and your household goods got delayed like a long time, didn't they?
Oh, dude, let me tell you. So we got here, 13 June. Okay, I didn't see my stuff until like 24 July. So we're talking in excess of 45 days to be able to get anything. So you're sleeping on an air mattress, obviously not sleeping great. Eating off of paper plates. Like imagine your whole world, like turn it upside down, shake it out, and then turn yourself back over, and whatever you have left, that's what I had for 45 days.
Card table and a microwave, man. What more do you need?
I didn't even have a microwave. I'm talking like we were oven cooking everything.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It's fun to camp in your house every once in a while.
Yeah, that's how the kids took it, at least.
Yeah. Joe, what's new with you, man?
So I have the opposite problem of VD, to where my household goods showed up 3 months before we even showed up. So they're waiting for us, but we still don't have a house. And I am in lockdown quarantine in Bahrain right now. Took the long 20-some hour journey over, and we've been here for about 5 or 6 days of our 14-day quarantine, and we can't even leave our hotel room.
This is great. Like I wanted VD and Joe to go first because I wanted to see if Kyle could top their updates. We have
I don't know why you would set me up.
learning to fly a new jet and like some crazy household stuff. Joe's in Bahrain. Like, okay, Kyle, what's going on in your life, man?
Well, as you know, I have a new job. I'm not a youth minister anymore. And so with that came leaving the church that we had been with for a long time. So that's what we've been working on for the last few weeks is finding a new church. And so that's been a fun experiment, fun kind of small journey moving forward with that. So I think we're zeroing in on one. We'll see. But we've been around, and it's kind of a bad time to change churches with COVID going on, because all the churches have kind of their own, ways that they're complying with standards and things like that. So it's kind of, basically if we don't know somebody there that can kind of give us a heads up on, what we're going to be running into, we haven't tried it. We haven't gone there, but it's been a good experience so far. So we're enjoying it though.
Good, man. You came up with an update.
I had one. I had an update.
Executed. All right, I have 2 updates. So when this is published, it will be Fit Week, right? Yep. So that's something we will be talking about today. The new standards, a lot of them the same, and then some of them are new. So we'll talk about those today in the podcast, as well as a study. But as far as personal updates, I am no longer on the Whoop train. I'm not on the Apple Watch train. I have the Oura Ring, but I wear it while I'm sleeping now. I'm officially on the Garmin train.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Traitor.
So I've had a Garmin for, it's been like 3 days since recording this. And holy crap, the amount of data. Like, I had no idea. I don't know why I haven't looked more seriously into Garmin. I think it's because Joe was always telling me like the heart rate monitor sucked. And I was like, well, that's a major part of the whole thing. So I didn't get one, but for a long time. But now I have one. In my 3 workouts, they have been a little bit more steady state type stuff. I haven't noticed any heart rate issues, but we'll see how different types of workouts affect it and things like that. But I know steady state's normally a little bit easier for these wrist models. But man, just how much you can customize and how much data it provides. It is a steep learning curve. The steepest learning curve of any device I've ever had. I think I'm almost over the learning curve. I finally got it all figured out. But I definitely want to try out the Garmin. So far, I really, really like it. I think it's pretty cool. So I'll give more updates on that as time goes along because I'm only 3 days in, right? The battery life, I think, is my favorite thing so far.
Yes.
Which Garmin did you get?
Yeah.
The Phoenix 6.
5 or 6? Oh, 6.
Oh, the new one.
The new one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Fancy.
Yeah. And I was trying to see if they're coming out with a new one because they should. But
It just came out with the 6.
Yeah, the 6 is the new one.
Oh, okay. Then I got the new one. Yeah, it's nice.
And it's not like Apple where it comes out every year. The Phoenix 5 came out like 5 or 6 years ago.
Oh.
So the 6 will be good for a while. And they regularly update it. You don't have to replace the hardware. They actually update their software and you're fine.
Well, and the new Apple Watch just came out. It came out yesterday. So we're recording this on Wednesday. And it came out Tuesday, then the Apple 6. And I was kind of just reading pre-articles to that, deciding if whether or not I really want to buy Garmin. And Apple, they basically added sleep tracking and a pulse ox. And Garmin already has that. And so I was like, I was just kind of let down with Apple. I like Apple. I think Apple is a really awesome and super accurate device. So I'm not switching because I hate any one of these things. I just want to try them all. And Whoop, I've talked about the pros and cons, but ultimately think it's a good device. Aura is awesome. I'm still going to use that for sleep tracking. Just not going to wear it throughout the day because it's not a fitness tracker. Apple Watch is great, but that battery life was just getting to me. But otherwise, it performs perfectly. And Garmin, we'll see how it goes. But so far, I like it. And then
not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor. That's why I can switch devices at any point in time, and it doesn't matter.
But if you want to send me one, Garmin, I will wear the crap out of it.
Yeah.
VD will be a sponsor.
I'll sell you all of my data. You can have it.
Yeah, and then
push it for the 3 podcasts he's on per year.
Well, Amazon has a Whoop competitor. I don't know if you guys saw that. It looks exactly like a Whoop, 100% like a Whoop, and costs it's $50 or something, and then it's $3.99 a month. So it's super cheap. I don't really know how much it does. I haven't looked into it. I definitely will not be getting an Amazon wearable. That will be one I don't try, but something you guys could look into if you're looking for it. Then the other big update from me, I guess I'll announce on this podcast, is I'm officially going for the 500-pound back squat 5-minute mile combination in the same day. So yeah, that's something I'll be working on. And I say working on because I'm going to give it exactly 1 year, kind of like I did the Murph project, of specifically working towards this goal and just assess where I'm at in a year. So I'm committing to doing the training to achieve this goal for 1 year and then reassessing where I'm at, because I've never back squatted 500 pounds and I've never ran a mile in 5 minutes or less. And when you've never done either one of those things and you're trying to do them both on the same day, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure of its possibility, so I'm going to give it a try and commit to the training for at least a year. And the reason being is it actually was accomplished by a guy at Ben Smith's gym. Ben Smith, former CrossFit Games. I guess he still competes. I don't even know anymore. Anyway, he did it, and I was like, okay, someone did it. I've had the goal in mind without ever committing to it for years. For 5 years, I've always thought about that would be so cool to do. And then someone knocked it out. And so I'm like, okay, well, I would love to be able to say that I did that. I'm not trying to compete with anything, but if I only ever achieve one thing athletically, I'd be pretty happy with that, because I know that that's going to be a very small fraternity of human beings who will ever accomplish that. So if I could get on that short list, I'd be pretty happy. So you can get involved. You're just going to have to get like more to the weeds about my programming. Will be in Team Builder and stuff, but there are certain restrictions of whether or not you can follow it. We'll cover that in a later podcast. I don't think anybody would want to be on my training anyway.
It's gonna be like hard to kill, but more.
It's gonna be a lot of running and squatting multiple times per week. So I said to you in the team meeting, there's a 95% chance I get injured, so that could also stop it. But we'll see what happens. I'm gonna train smartly.
Perfect.
Okay, so let's get into the study. We'll be talking about caloric restriction induces anabolic resistance to resistance exercise. This one was done in October 2019. What do you guys have? No, just kidding. So what they were looking at, really they're trying to find out if caloric restriction with the presence of resistance training, if it's going to help or hurt with muscle growth and strength, all of the typical things. So just a quick, I feel like there has to be a huge buffer on a few things, but let me get a few of the smaller things out of the way. They started with 15 participants. They ended up with 7, 5 men, 2 women. And the coolest thing about it that I liked and that VD liked, because VD actually picked the study, was the resistance training they were doing was a 5-5-5 back squat. And so that, if listen to the podcast, it's very rare to find studies where they're like doing something, barbell back squats. And I think that it's really awesome that they did it. It was like a crossover control. So everyone did the same method, but there was like a 2-week washout period in between. And there were 3 different groups. One was a control group that would consume 40 calories per kilogram. And then there were 2 caloric restriction groups, one who would have protein post-workout and one who'd have carb post-workout. And the caloric restriction nature was 15 calories per kilogram. And they only tested over 3 days doing the back squat. And then they measured a bunch of like hormonal responses. It's only 3 days. So they're not really looking like, hey, how much strength did they gain, or, how much muscle size increased. They were looking at the markers that would, eventually lead to those things, like growth hormone response, insulin, IGF-1, insulin growth like factor 1, and all these things. And so they were looking at them to see what they could kind of conclude or speculate would happen. Because big picture here, if you go into a caloric deficit or caloric restriction, that's not good for gaining muscle or gaining strength. Just bottom line. So everyone knows that. But we can talk a little bit more about these updates. I'm going to throw it to VD off the bat, man. What else do you think people should know, or what did you take away from this study?
Okay, feet to the fire first. I'll take it. What you should take away from this as one of our athletes is that if you're going to be cutting calories in an effort to increase your body composition, lose fat, whatever the case is, you need to be prepared not to be the strongest, not to be PRing on Fit Week. That's just going to be a side effect of cutting calories in general. However, if you choose to go that route, you need to be strength training as well. It's going to blunt a lot of the other factors that come along with calorie restriction, like decreased anabolic response, meaning less muscle growth, et cetera, without getting too nerdy. And then also it's a low-cal diet like that's going to affect your bone density. And so strength training will help stop some of that as well. One of the flaws of the study, though, is that it's only a 3-day study. So they're looking at a 3-day window of time, and they're seeing a small change during that 3 days. So you can imagine if you expound this out over weeks of caloric restriction with not weight training, that those results could be worse. So on a 12-week cycle like what we do with Garage Gym Athlete, you need to be strength training if you're going to start cutting calories. Period. Dot. That's the biggest takeaway I found out of the 40 pages or whatever this is.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. What else do you guys have?
I had something about the calories that when I was first reading it, I wasn't sure if I was reading it right, but now that I actually did the math, and I feel like they went way too much into a calorie deficit. Now, maybe because it's only 3 days, they wanted to like really overemphasize the deficit, because to see the hormonal results. But I just did the math on what the deficit would be for me, and that would only be 1,250 calories for me in the day, which is more than 50 or less than 50% of what I would normally consume, which is pretty ridiculous of a deficit. And the 40 or the control is actually a surplus for me. So I don't know how they did their math on that, or if that would affect to just not go as to an extreme for the deficits. But everything else with VD, I would just echo it. And, even, I guess think of it as a continuum. The more of a deficit that you're going to be in, the less muscle you're going to lose, and vice versa.
So I was also encouraged to see some barbell work in a study, which is something that we haven't seen very much. Most of the time when they're testing lower body strength, they're doing a leg press or a knee extension or something like that. So that was really good. They were testing what they were using to test. They were also using supplementation afterwards, right? Wasn't there something to do with supplements after the intervention? Like they were doing carb supplements after, or whey protein supplements after, or
those are the two caloric restriction groups. Basically, there are three groups. One was control, two were caloric restriction, but either with protein or with carb. And they were doing that primarily because I'm just going to have to talk a little bit about hormones in a minute, but different foods can affect your hormones in different ways, and that's basically the only thing that they were measuring. So I think that's why they had very specific post-workout, because a big question I had is like, why not just do a protein carbohydrate post-workout drink? Because like that's probably better than one or the other. And I think that they didn't want to jack with people's hormones because food can do that. So yeah.
Gotcha. That's kind of the only, one of the questions that I kind of wanted to clear up a little bit, what it was they were doing with that.
Okay.
Anyway, it was good. It was good to see some barbell work in there. And I think that's something that our people would really appreciate as well. That's mostly what we do, is a lot of barbell work. So that was good.
Yeah. So I put their question on. So caloric restriction jacks with your hormones, but what about with an anabolic stimulus like resistance training is what they were looking to do. And so they point out that weight loss in general decreases muscle protein synthesis and increases muscle protein breakdown. So catabolic, that you should just know that, there's anabolic building up, catabolic breaking down. If you're going to lose weight, you're going to go into a catabolic state. So to VD's point, like if you want to lose weight, there's a lot of bad that comes with it because your muscle can't be fully spared. There are studies that saying aerobic training and resistance training will help preserve muscle mass, not fully preserve muscle mass, with resistance training preserving more muscle mass than aerobic training. But really they want to know what it does. So it will kind of it'll put the brakes on that by continuing to do resistance training when you're trying to lose weight. So that really should be the biggest takeaway. The thing I wanted to point out about the hormones is, and I don't have an answer to this one, but it's really interesting. If you look at, they have like a chart of growth hormone response over a 3-hour window, 4-hour window, no, 3-hour window. And the caloric restriction groups had this massive spike, over 2 times the amount of growth hormone from training than the control group with 40 calories per kilogram. So that's very interesting, right? There's this huge surge in growth hormone. So you'd think, okay, that's a really good thing, but it's growth hormone and IGF-1 kind of play off of each other. And so if you look at that graph in the caloric restriction groups, IGF-1 just continually goes down up to 24 hours after their resistance training, which is not good because that just means you're not going to be growing muscle or getting stronger. But then this opens up another conversation that we're not going to have fully about IGF-1 it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. So this hormone makes things grow. It's like Miracle Grow for things in your body. But you can put Miracle Grow on like a rose bush, or you can put it on poison ivy, right? And they're both going to grow. And that's the unfortunate side of IGF-1. It can help muscles grow, can help you get bigger, stronger, faster, but it can also dramatically accelerate cancer growth. It helps anything grow. And so there's a lot of argument on IGF-1 and whether you'd want it good or bad, and the answer, or elevated or not. And the answer is, most of the time I feel like this is just my take on it, moving outside of science, like your body knows what the hell it's doing. So if you lift a bunch of weights and IGF-1 is elevated, and also true through your diet, my theory is that your body just knows to grow muscle and not cancer cells, or else bodybuilding would be like the most dangerous thing that you could do. Be like, why don't all bodybuilders just have cancer? But we get questions like this because people are always like, they're talking about the blue zones and eating low protein diets and, not elevating IGF-1, but you have to look at the full picture of what your body's doing. So IGF-1 can make anything grow, and it tends to move down in caloric restriction, which can be good and bad, but for performance increases, it's bad. But I think my final takeaway is really the whole bodybuilding style of bulking than cutting. I think this gives it more, not that was ever like a disputed thing, but it gives it more reason to kind of go through these phases. Like you could go through a drastic caloric restriction with some resistance training, knowing you are still going to lose some muscle, you're going to cut down, you're going to get smaller, but then you go through a bulking phase. And this also is how you could play off that IGF-1 in a healthier way, because really if your IGF-1 is elevated all the time, that probably will end up being bad for you. Even bodybuilders go through this cut phase. So it's good to have caloric restrictions periodically. So things like fasting, intermittent fasting, or doing a 24-hour fast once a month, or whatever you can manage, is really good and something that you should take into account. But I think if you're like, hey, I want to lose weight and gain muscle at the same time, it's probably easier just to cut all the way down to what you want and then start building back up, but with resistance training in the mix. That was kind of my takeaway.
Yeah, I think another approach is carb cycling, right? So you'll have some days where you're very low calorie restriction, and then other days where you eat more. And so you're kind of doing the same thing you're talking about the bulking and the cutting, but you're doing it within a week's time frame. Yeah. And then you also have some maintenance days in there as well, to where you're just kind of eating exactly what you burn. So that's another way to approach it without doing the bulking cutting thing, because no one wants to get fat.
Yeah, and that's I think that it's a good idea, but it's hard to execute in theory, sure. In actual like doing it, because if you just want to be a performance athlete, like we all have the desire to be, like it's hard to go through a cutting phase. I mean, we could just keep our training the same, but then pull the nutritional lever up and down, right? But we don't really have like necessarily a reason to do that, so it makes it harder. So I think carb cycling is a better implementation of like that weekly. Like I think I do that on accident. Like I think I don't eat that much during the week. Like I eat enough, but I'm not focused on food. I'm focused on working. And we have a lot of stuff going on with the kids, even after work and everything. So, but on the weekend, I haven't tracked it in recent, but I guarantee I eat at least 25% more calories on Saturday and Sunday, to include carbohydrates, if not more, on Saturday and Sunday than I do Monday through Friday. So yeah, carb cycling is something that people could look into as well. That's a good point, VD.
Yeah, I typically do it without thinking about it as well. For example, Thursdays and Sundays are usually rest days in our programming. So I know that I'm not going to train tomorrow, since we're recording this on Wednesday. I may eat a little bit less today, just enough to get me through, probably around maintenance style. But then tomorrow, I don't need to eat as much because I'm not training that day. So I tend to eat a little less because I'm not as hungry. And then on training days, I'll up that a little more. So it just kind of happens naturally for me. I know everyone's not that way, but if you can develop those habits, it just kind of becomes second nature. It sounds like that's what you got on the weekends, and then mine's just kind of spread out through the week.
I mean, listening to your body can tell. Like I know after heavy back squats or deadlifts, I'm going to be
hungry.
Yeah. And just kind of listen to your body and do those things. And same, I think if I were to go like 3 days without training, I probably would not be interested in food at all. I feel like anytime I go 2 days in a row, like a Saturday and a Sunday, I'm just not that hungry. I feel like a lot of my metabolism is fueled through exercise.
Unless you're in quarantine and then you're just bored.
But you can eat out of boredom.
So I've heard.
Yeah, there are some habits.
I've been there, Joe. I understand.
It's something.
It's something. It's special.
Yeah, I got really special. I had to quarantine before I left, and then quarantine when I got here.
Oh, that sounds
Yeah,
like something the Navy does.
Yeah, it was dumb. I think they got the idea from you guys. I don't know.
Not me.
Well, you're in adjacent to the Navy,
De
so
facto.
that's why you guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on this study from anyone?
No.
Don't think so.
Weight train all the time.
Yeah, and I guess my other takeaway is just really that hormonal stuff. It's so often overlooked. We just want to be these like calculators with calories when we're trying to gain or lose or whatever. And there's this whole other side of training that I think your body does, like I said, does a pretty good job of managing itself, but there's a lot more to it than just, we're not robots. Like these hormones play a massive response. So if you're like not seeing results and you feel like you're doing everything right, it could be a hormonal thing, and getting blood work done to figure that out, or saliva or whatever you have to test, do it.
Yeah. You need to get your levels. I mean, I actually did that a few months back, and she thought she couldn't do high intensity. Then she found out that she really should be doing more on high intensity or something like that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Emily's done a lot of that stuff as well. Let's get into the standards. So what we're talking about topic wise, and I'm just going to kind of introduce each one. If you guys have something to say about it, let's talk about it. A lot of them are going to be kind of common sense, right? And I'm not going to dive into the actual standard part of every single thing, because and what I mean by that is like we have the deadlift, and the deadlift at competitor level, you need to be lifting greater than or equal to 2 times your body weight. And I'm not going to get into every single one because there's 6 for every single test. We're going to be primarily talking about the test. I might mention a few of the competitor levels, but if you guys want to see the full standards, we have them published on the website. Just did a webinar about this recently. It's funny to say that because the webinar is actually tomorrow, but we will be doing the webinar. And like if you're a Garage Gym athlete, we have all this stuff posted in the Facebook group and everything else. So you guys will be able to see them, access them. It's also in the app. We try to put it everywhere. So every Fit Week, every 12 week comes around Fit Week, we test these standards looking to see how well-rounded you are. And the standards, when I created them, it was a very long time ago. It wasn't called Garage Gym Athlete. The workouts, just everything was different. And I still based them off of a lot of I've always pulled studies and looked at that kind of stuff, but there weren't studies for some of these things. And we didn't have a ton of athlete data that I could look at and pull and things. So we've slightly changed them, but not all of them. So let's hop into it. The first one is work time. We don't test work time, but work time for competitor is 4+ hours. And that just means that you can go do work for 4+ hours. That's exactly what I mean by work time. So could you do a longer Spartan race? Could you do yard work for 4+ hours? Are you able to continually move your body for 4+ hours? That could be a hike, a ruck, anything like that. I think work time is really important, often overlooked as a fitness thing, because it's real, it's one of the most functional things you can do. Can you keep moving for 4 hours or more? I think that's really important. Doesn't mean you have to run a marathon of 4 hours. Just could you move your body for that long? You guys feel like you adequately test your work time at least once a year? That's my recommendation, is testing it once a year.
Well, the past 2 years we've done a Spartan, so yeah.
And they were greater than 4 hours, right?
Yeah.
They were definitely greater than 4 hours.
Yeah. Twice. All right. The second test we have is, we kind of move into our strength tests. Deadlift, which we have competitors set at 2 times your body weight. Back squat greater than or equal to 1.75 times your body weight at competitor. And front squat greater than or equal to 1.5 times your body weight. And overhead press just needs to be greater than or equal to body weight. What do you guys have to say on any of these lifts? None of these have changed. We've always been doing deadlift, back squat, front squat, press. Any clarifications you think anybody needs, or something you want to mention?
Just that push press is no longer, or push jerk is no longer a thing that we do anymore. That was always one of the most questioned movements, because some people don't know how to push jerk, and they questioned why we did push jerk, and then some people would do push press, and some people would split their leg. It was always a slight kerfuffle every PR every fit week. So we just got rid of it altogether and put other things in place to, get what we wanted out of it.
Yeah. And I can talk about these with the other ones. We've also removed the snatch and the clean. So we don't test those Olympic lifts anymore. Some people, very few, I would say less than maybe 1%, maybe 0.1% of our athletes are maybe frustrated about that, but we no longer test any of the Olympic lifts, really because we don't program them. And I think there are better ways to test that without having to get good at golf, is what I like to call it. Because getting good at the snatch and clean and jerk is a lot like golf. You can practice it your entire life and still kind of be crappy, or get a little bit better. But ultimately, we're not trying to help build or breed a bunch of Olympic weightlifters, because it's too hard to coach. It's too hard to coach and provide in the service that we do. And so we're not going to have. We stopped testing it a long time ago. We really made it like an optional thing, then kind of removed it altogether. Now it's just not even a part of one of our standards, because I don't think that you need to be able to snatch any amount of weight over your head to be an athlete. And I think athletes themselves are the ones who actually prove this all the time. You can look at a bunch of different athletes across many fields, and they may never really touch the Olympic lifts that much. A lot of them are afraid of getting injured, because an injury to a professional athlete is very, very bad. So that's where they try to avoid. So yeah. And the only other thing I want to mention on these is sometimes we get the question, why are all of our lifts in proportion to your body weight as opposed to, because they're absolute strength tests. There's absolute strength and there's relative strength. So relative strength is how strong are you compared to your body weight. And absolute is just, this weighs what it weighs. It doesn't matter if you're 500 pounds or 200 pounds, you can either lift it or you can't. And that's where the power lifters like to live, right? But they even have weight classes, but they are more about absolute strength. The reason we put them in conjunction with your body weight is because it forces the BMI issue. These don't really allow you to be at the competitor level and be overweight. And so this is how I don't have a factor in here that's like, you need to weigh this much or your BMI needs to be this much, because I don't really believe in a lot of those metrics. Like my BMI has been an obese before, and I can still run like a 6-minute mile at that BMI. Like it's not a good indicator, but when we throw in, you should be able to back squat or say deadlift 2 times your body weight. If you weigh 300 pounds, you need to get to a 600-pound deadlift. And if you get to a 600-pound deadlift and you can still like hold on with some of these aerobic metrics, whatever, you're 300 pounds and you're just a beast, but it might be easier to come down to 250 pounds, and get a 500-pound deadlift, or, to be at that competitor level. And like I said, I'm only mentioning competitor, but we have female competitor, male competitor. There's an established, a recruit. We're just not going to get into every single one because of how time consuming it would be. Competitor is just the easiest one to list off, because everything else is going to be less than that competitor level. So that's why we do it compared to your body weight, because it forces you to make a decision on what you want your body weight to be. All right, next, the EO3 5K. This is one of my favorites. You need to do it in less than 40 minutes to be a competitor. Any comments on the EO3 5K?
That is very hard, and that does include the mandatory 4 minutes of rest.
Yeah, very hard. That's the one that I've not been able to beat. 40 minutes is pretty fast.
Yeah, it's very challenging. And the reason I like the EO3 5K as opposed to testing a 5K, because we're testing aerobic here, specifically mixed modal aerobic. And I like mixed modal aerobic workouts like EO3 5K or Murph, because going back to that work time, I feel like that's more how real life functional fitness is going to be, is like there's going to be running and jumping and like all these things involved in any case in which you'd have to use your fitness. So I like testing that kind of aerobic, longer aerobic, as opposed to just go run a 5K or go do a timed 3-mile or 5-mile run. I like that. So that's EO3 5K. The full workout, if you need it, just Google it.
Well, we're going to cover it at the end of this.
I was going to say, or just keep listening.
Oh, is that today's workout? There we go.
Today's workout. Yeah.
Jeez. There we are.
We're going to brief that here in just a minute.
So don't Google it. Wait like 5 or 10
Keep
more minutes.
listening.
Yeah. Okay, and then we move to strict pull-ups and strict dips. So far, nothing's changed, just so we're clear. Strict pull-ups and strict dips, other than the removal of the push jerk. And 20 plus on both of those for competitor level. Anything on strict pull-ups or strict dips?
Just more about relative to strength to body weight.
And I will say form. on pull-ups, and same with dips. Your arms need to fully extend in both of these scenarios. Just so we're clear on what a strict pull-up is and what a strict dip is. We don't test kipping pull-ups because I feel like that tests nothing. It's pretend test. But we do strict pull-ups, and you need to fully lock your arms out at the bottom. Doesn't mean you have to pause at the bottom. These are not pause strict pull-ups, but you do need to lock out your arms. And same with the dips. You need to go all the way up to where your triceps are locked out, elbows locked out. And this is relative to your actual body weight. How can you manipulate your body weight that you have with pull-ups and dips? Probably one of the best strength methods tests out there, in my opinion, is pull-ups specifically. If you can do 20 plus pull-ups, you're doing pretty well.
Yeah, that's something I was going to say. We really like barbell work, and that's kind of a sexier thing is to do the barbell work. But honestly, if you want to test how strong you are and how fit you are, you need to be able to move your own body weight around. And I don't mean like your body weight amount on a barbell. I mean like your actual body. And I think that's the test of fitness, the test of athleticism is, can you manipulate your body to do what you need it to do? And I think that's why we have these in here. That's the main reason why we have these in here, and is because you want to be strong, you want to be fit, you need to move your body. So that's something I was going to say too.
Yeah, and the whole point of all of these standards of these tests, one, we're testing fully across all energy systems. Every single energy system is tested here. And we don't need to get into the specifics of each one. I definitely could. It would just prolong the podcast. But yeah, we're testing all energy systems. But then in strength, I feel like even strength needed to be broken out even further, because the deadlift is in relation to your body weight to force BMI. But then we have these relative strength, because there are power lifters who can deadlift 875 pounds and they cannot do one pull-up. That's a thing. Mm-hmm. That's a real thing out there. And so that's, I don't want anybody to be celebrated in any of these tests. I want you to find out where you suck. You're going to suck somewhere. And that's the whole point of testing yourself through all of these things. Not because what we get a lot of times, we'll get strong athletes come in and they're pissed off that they're like at establish a recruit with all these other things, but they're really strong. I'm like, maybe you're too strong. Have you ever thought about that? Like there is a too strong, like where it's not really beneficial for you anymore. So it's good to test these things. Now here's a new one: hand release push-ups. So this is a new test that we're adding. Hand release push-up is simply bringing your chest to the ground, and then hands come off the ground. Then you push yourself back up. So that is a new test because we don't have that horizontal push really tested. We do not test bench press. We get that question a lot. We don't test it primarily not because I don't believe in bench press as being a good test. It's just a safety thing. I don't want to tell thousands of athletes to go test bench press when people die bench pressing every single year. So the hand release push-up is a new one. And then we have two new tests. You guys have anything on hand release push-up?
It's going to be fun to verify.
We've been testing them on shred, so you have no excuse to not have a good score.
Yeah, we do the hand release push-up because like I can't force you to lock out your arms on a strict pull-up. I can't do it, but on a hand push-ups can get really crappy. Joe, VD, and I, all having served in the military, we've all seen it. We've been around PT tests where we're like, oh, those push-ups count. Like, what am I doing over here? The push-up form can be heavily disputed and like not full range of motion. It's kind of ridiculous. So hand release push-up at least forces you. It doesn't force you to lock your arms out of the way at the top, but it does force you to at least come all the way down. And it's undisputed how far you can come down.
Yeah, I actually think I saw a video a while back. The guy who like holds the push-up record right now. Just go Google that. Google the world record for continuous push-ups, unbroken push-ups, and just see how far down that guy's going. And
it's probably like the burpee one.
You'll be shocked. You'll be shocked at what counted for the world record of push-ups.
Yeah, and that's like Murph. Like Guinness Book of World Records would not recognize Murph because there's like too many variations, and I'm in agreement with them. I don't know if they'll change their mind on that eventually, but they're basically like, this workout's got too many weird things in it. Like, and I guarantee if they ever approve that, the fastest time in the world is going to be like 19 minutes because they're going to run their miles. They'll be a fast runner. And then they're going to do pull-ups that we wouldn't count, push-ups that we wouldn't count, and squats that are barely all the way down. And they're going to finish all of their calisthenics in like 10 minutes and run again, you know? So yeah, it gets really disgusting when people aren't using good form.
Oh, that's fine. We can just blow it out of the water with a 10-minute Murph then.
Yeah, I mean, if we're cheating, right? Like, let's go ahead and do it.
Hey, it's not cheating if Guinness says it's good, right?
Right. All right, the next test. This one's actually relatively new. So it really is the 2,000 meter row is what we have always had, but I can't tell you how many of our athletes don't have a rower. You know, so I think I've always thought it's funny that we kind of test it. We're like, hey, this is the worst test. It's a great test, but we know you don't have this device. So good luck. And so what we did, instead of, this isn't 3 different tests, you kind of get to pick one with a caveat. This is my caveat. If you have a rower, you have to use the rower. That's what I'm saying for this one. You obviously get to pick, but it's a 2,000 meter row or a 4,000 meter bike erg, which people might not have that either. So that's why we threw in the 105 rep burpee tests, and all of the same time standards hold. So you have at the competitor level less than or equal to 7 minutes to be a competitor to do 2,000 meter worth of rowing or 5,000 meters worth of bike erg or 105 burpees in less than or equal to 7 minutes. So that's it's one category right there by itself. You can kind of pick which of the 3 you want to test. You do not test more than one of them after you've made your selection. You guys have any questions or comments on that one?
15 burpees a minute. Game on.
Game on.
That's a lot.
And then the next test is very similar, but training a different energy system. So originally it was just the 5,000 meter row.
500 meter row.
What?
500 meter row.
What did I say?
5,000.
5,000.
Yeah, we're not
That
doing
would hurt.
500.
We're not going 5,000.
500 meter row. Sorry. So we're testing a lower end energy system here, and you need to row in less than or equal to 1:35 seconds. Now, the other 2 tests that you could choose instead of the row would be a 1,000 meter bike erg or a 25 rep burpee test. So can you do 25 burpees in 1:35 seconds? That's at, again, the competitor level. It all goes up from there on your times. And something that we removed that was originally kind of tested in here as an either or, there is no more 400 meter run. We don't test a 400 meter run anymore. We used to do that 400 meter sprint, but man, I hate even programming sprints now. Like, I want everyone to buy a machine, because how many times someone's pulled a hamstring or something because they didn't appropriately warm up? Like, I don't even know how many times I've said this on the podcast too. If you have a desk job and you want to go sprint at max speed, dangerous combination. Even if you're doing your mobility, an hour a day and all these other things, it's fine. But if you don't have a very, very proper warm up, your hamstring could just be a little too tight from having sat too long the day before, and then you can pull it. And I'm sure has everyone here pulled a hamstring or at least tweaked one?
I have not. I've not had any major injuries.
Yeah, I haven't had like a major one. I've definitely felt it before in track, and that was when I was in high school. So like, definitely. I mean, I guess that is kind of a desk scenario there, but young kids still hurt my hamstring doing that, and it can just happen. It can happen to anybody. So I don't like testing it. So we've removed the 400 meter run, and we have all these other options in its place. All right. So since we did remove the clean and we removed the snatch, had to think of ways, how do we still, and we removed the jerk, how do we still test that explosive ability of an athlete? And so that's what these next 2 tests are for, because the reason I ever even kept those tests in there, because I didn't care about your technical proficiency of the lift. I cared about you being able to move load and open your hips explosively. Like, that's what makes an athlete. The amount of weight you can snatch does not make you an athlete. It's whether or not you can, use your hips in an explosive way that makes you an athlete. And in almost every sport, this holds true. So we have the broad jump. So just standing broad jump, jumping from one location to another. And for competitor, that will be greater than or equal to 9 feet. And then it just kind of goes down from there. So that's the broad jump. Any comments or statements on broad jump?
That kind of takes the place of the snatch, right? That's the same hip opening action. So if you're mad about losing the snatch, at least you're getting a broad jump. That tests basically the same thing.
Yeah, and there's a triple extension. I even took a snapshot of me doing a screenshot of me doing a broad jump, and you can see perfect triple extension all the way from knees, hips, arms, everything. Like I'm a perfect straight line, and I'm almost at 45 degrees jumping. And just to show people, jumping is jumping, and that's all snatching really is like a big jump with a weight in your hand, right? So, but if you can still jump far, that's still a great explosive test. And probably, in all honesty, it's better and safer than a snatch. The only problem with broad jump, your landing location, make sure that you be really clear. You're measuring from the front of your toes to the back of your heel. So when you jump, it's from where your toes take off, wherever you land, you then measure the back of your heel, then you'd measure line to line. But don't do this on a slippery surface. When you're trying to jump as far as you possibly can, it's pretty easy to slip out on the landing, in which case you'd have to repeat the test because you don't know where you landed to measure. But if you're doing it in grass or whatever, it's a safe area, but just be cognizant of that. And if your garage is low, too, think about, hitting your hands or head on the ceiling.
Maybe this won't be safer than a snatch.
You'd have to have a pretty low ceiling to run into that problem. But I know some of our athletes do. Like if you have one of those, like a basement or whatever, where you can't press overhead, definitely think about it.
Yeah, do it on a downhill slope. That way you get more distance.
Yeah. Oh, great. We already found ways to cheat it.
I'm kidding. It should be flat ground.
All right. And the next one we have is plate jump. So we do this in our programming from time to time. It's a very challenging movement. So you have to sit down. What is that position called? Basically the saddle position, but with your knees kind of together.
Kneeling position?
Would that be kneeling? Yeah.
Kneeling, but
everything is a yoga pose to me.
So sun salutation then.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
See, it's not even a yoga pose to me. Okay, anyway.
Sure it is. That's what Shanika tells me all the time.
Plate jump. And so what you're trying to do is go from basically on your knees to flat on your feet with a jump. This might be helpful to watch a video. If you Google plate jump, we're not covering this later in the podcast, are we? So I can tell people to Google it. You can Google plate jump. It might even be my video of me doing it in my garage that comes up. Because we might be the only ones who call it plate jump. I think I just kind of invented that name.
I Googled plate jump, and it was actually where you're standing next to a plate and you're bringing your feet up and into the plate, going out like that.
Oh, like Zumba style.
Yeah. So
we are not going to be the one who comes up. Hold on. I'm going to Google it one more time. Okay, Google, because I think it's on my personal YouTube channel, which I haven't used in years. So Google plate jump Jared Moon. So Jerred, if you don't know how to spell my name.
Nobody does.
Yeah, nobody does. It'll
does.
be the first video there. You'll see a plate jump. So you can actually watch me do a plate jump. So anyway, the plate jump is 9 inches greater than or equal to 9 inches for competitor, and then goes down from there. To recruit is just 0 inches, meaning you can complete the movement. Because a lot of people will not even be able to complete it, which means you're not even at the recruit level. Being able to complete this movement is an accomplishment. So that's the plate jump standard right there. Any comments on plate jump? Are you guys good plate jumpers?
No.
Yes.
I can land on my feet every time, and I can get up there, but I don't think I can really get much of a plate. Like, I don't even know if I can get established. I don't think I can.
It's up there. It's going to be up there for one of the toughest tests. It might be the toughest of the new ones, but it'll be up there for them. It'll
relatively
be
safe
deceptive.
too.
Yeah. Well, people are and people will look at it like 9 inches. Okay, that's no big deal. Well, but
I think some people are going to be losing
coming
their
off your knees. Yeah.
Yeah, it's don't miss. start lower than you need to.
You're going to learn today.
All right, we have 2 more tests. The next one is a 1 mile run. Formerly, we tested the 1.5 mile run. So Kyle, didn't Hannah test the 1 mile. So maybe we could just bring it back and
Oh my goodness.
let's
Salt
not go
in the
there.
wound.
Let's not go there.
So anyway, the reason I moved it from 1.5 mile to 1 mile is really research. There was when I first chose the 1.5 mile run, one, that's the test the Air Force used to, or they still do, they still test. But the reason I liked their selection of that test was all the science behind it. There was a huge correlation between someone's 1.5 mile run time and their VO2 max. At the time, whatever, 7 years ago when I created these, there was not as much of a correlation between a 1 mile run and VO2 max. But now there have been multiple studies published on 1 mile run and its correlation to your VO2 max. And so we already have an upper end aerobic test. I wanted more of a painful aerobic lactate threshold type. And that's why I brought it down to 1.5 mile, because I don't feel like you can hold that same intensity or bring it down to 1. I don't feel like you can hold that same intensity to 1.5. Most people can't. You have to be a very, very conditioned aerobic athlete to even be able to do that. So we have brought it down to 1 mile run. And I actually put in calculations based off of these studies. I did not just randomly, and that's the same with all of the parameters we have. There's normally at least 1 or 2 studies linked to why we selected what we did. And so the 1 mile run correlated to less than or equal to 6 minutes and 12 seconds to be at an elite VO2 max. So that's what that came out to be. And there's like a little formula for it you can actually do. So that's how that time got selected. Because if I had to just select it at random, I probably would have selected like 5:55 or 5:50 or something like that as just my Jared Brain competitor level. But I tried to match a mile time with a nearly elite VO2 max, not the upper end like professional athlete VO2 max. Let me be clear, not the actual upper echelon, the one right below that. I think the VO2 max is broken into like 5 categories. So like the 4th window there is 612. So any questions, comments, concerns on a mile run?
Warm up first.
And there's no alternates for that one. The other one's had, this one doesn't.
Yep. You have to run 1 mile. That's it. Get it done. All right. The last
Kyle
one.
can run, you can run.
There it is. There it
Doing
is.
If I can do it, you can do it. Just don't ask me to record it for you.
Yeah. Unverified. No shirt.
All right.
So last.
The last one is the front leaning rest. We have not had a good test of the core. Like, there's good arguments that a lot of these other things like a front squat, a back squat, or even a deadlift, or hand release push-ups are some tests of your core strength to some degree, but not true isometric long duration core tests. So we have the front leaning rest, which we do all the freaking time, at least on the hard to kill track. VD, I'm not 100% sure how much you're instituting the FLR in your training these days, but the front leaning rest is a great test of strength, core strength, shoulder strength, arm strength. So it is just the top of the push-up position, and competitive level has been set at greater than or equal to 4 minutes and 31 seconds without breaking, which is going to be another challenging one.
You got to watch your form on this one too, just like with the push-ups. Like this is not a pike. You're not supposed to be in a pike position.
We're down dog if we're going to get back.
Don't
to
need
yoga.
downward dog either. Don't keep your hips too low or your hips too high. Like you gotta keep it flat. So
yeah, just because your hips are not on the ground doesn't mean you're still doing a front leaning rest.
Nope.
Like you have to stay. Your body basically has to stay in a straight line the entire time.
Yeah, best way to do that, squeeze the glutes. That should tighten everything up, and then you should be able to hold the right position.
And that's how I normally get through the front leaning rest, is by squeezing, flexing different muscle groups.
Yes, not with your hands. Flex.
No, flex. So I will flex my glutes, flex my abs, shoulders, like just going through like a process over and over. One, it kind of takes my mind off of how much front leaning rest can suck, but it also just helps you keep everything tight. So that is the front leaning rest. And those are the new standards. If you guys want a copy of all of them at the competitor level, established and recruit, and also for females, what we don't have this broken down to yet is age. And I'm actually a little bit torn on it. So we're going to roll into this fit week, and I'm actually going to pull some data from athletes in certain age brackets and see if I need to make any adjustments. We used to make adjustments on some of the aerobic ones for athletes over certain age groups. I don't know if I'm going to do that again. I'm undecided. I'm going to see if it's necessary first through our athlete data as opposed to just arbitrarily setting that. So we'll see. Update on that. All right, workout. Who's got it?
Got it. So with the EO3 5K, you are going to do 6 rounds of starting with a 800-meter run. Then after your 800-meter run, half mile, you will do 3 sets of 5 push-ups, 10 sit-ups, and 15 air squats. So you repeat that whole sequence, the run, and then the 3 sets of the calisthenics 6 times. And then you will do rest 3. Let's see, I didn't have it pulled up.
So you can Google EO3 5K.
Yes. Then you will rest 3 minutes. So the rest counts toward the time. And then sprint 100 meters, then rest 1 more minute, and then sprint 100 meters. And then at the end of that last 100 meters is when you hit your time for stop. And that's also why that sub 40 minute is really hard, because Liz and I just did this when I was in Texas. It was a really good workout. And if I had that I still wouldn't have been a competitor, but I would have been a lot closer.
Yeah. And it's so convoluted on that. It's hard to make it clear. It's hard to communicate to all the athletes, the rest and the sprints at the end. But yeah, do them. That's my tip.
Yes. Yeah.
Do the full workout.
Right. So really for a competitor, you're trying to get all that work done in 36 minutes or less.
Something like that. Yeah.
Because you have 4 minutes of rest built in, and that counts towards your time.
Yeah. Like you'll know as soon as you finish the bulk of the work, whether or not you're even in the running.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because you'll know about how long it will take you to do those short sprints. And so you already know, like, damn it, I did it or I didn't. So every time I've done it, like, that's kind of what I'm like, okay, I'm going to make it, or there's no chance, so.
Have you ever made it?
I have made it. Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
You have to do the first part by 35 minutes. No.
I've only made it when I've been on a legit track though. I don't know why. I think I pace out my 800 meters a little bit faster when I'm on a track. But if I'm just like running in my neighborhood, which is how I do it most of the time, I don't make it. Elevation.
Yeah, that takes elevation.
That was rude. All right.
That's the truth is what it is.
There's at least a 100 meter change in elevation between 2 points in Texas.
I can vouch for that.
Those points may be 100 miles apart, but.
Well, I remember things. And so, Kyle, I'm going to invite you over one day. All and right. We're going to do some hill runs on the hills that don't exist in Texas.
I got you.
All right, cool. Any tips for this one? My only tip was do the full workout. You guys have anything else? Find a track, maybe.
Calisthenics should be done as fast as humanly possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you're not. These are partitioned for you. You have to do the 5, 10, 15, 5, 10, 15. You're not just you're not throwing them together like that. It's the transition that's part of it. So make sure you're doing the 5, 10, 15 on the cows.
So here's a question on the squats. Can you go from sit up to squat standing up 1 rep, or up down 1 rep?
I'd say yes.
I'd say squat to standing is 1 rep.
It's a heavily debated thing, because what's the point of the squat, right?
If you actually can get your feet under you and you're in a squat position at the bottom, you're not just getting your feet under you and you're standing up, then yes.
What if you do that little ninja get up thing?
Then no.
If you can do that, you deserve credit.
Okay, then yeah.
1 rep.
Yeah. Or 1 plate jump get up.
Yeah, so but seriously though, when you're transitioning from push up to sit up, you should just be able to roll over. That's how I did it. Save some time.
That's how I just did it. I would do push-ups next to my mat, and then I would go brace myself on 1 arm and just flip right over, right on my butt, and then sit up.
And then do the ninja thing.
And then ninja. Yeah, I always ninja up.
So Google the ninja get up thing, and you know what we're talking about.
But does everyone know what I'm talking about, though?
Yes.
Absolutely. It's like a plate jump,
and flip
the other way.
Oh, man, we should have put that in there. Okay, new since these are fresh.
New standard.
You can do the ninja get up or the plate jump, either one. If you can just complete the ninja get up, that'll just count as competitor plate jump. So,
I love it.
there you go.
Can't wait to see those videos.
Audible, yeah.
They're coming in. There will be people who do it.
And if you're in costume, you get extra kudos.
I am waiting for the video.
Oh, there's somebody who already did their PRs in costumes. So.
Oh, I know. That's why I say that.
Keith.
All right, guys. That is it for this podcast. We are in Fit Week. So if you are thinking about being one of our athletes, you know what we test. And there's a big reason we test them is because we want you to be incredibly well-rounded and not have this vague training plan that's getting you better at something maybe. And the research shows that setting your goals on only aesthetic goals, wanting to lose weight or gain muscle, they don't work for the long term. Most people start gaining that weight back, even if your program was effective for a short period of time. These things just don't work. So focusing on something that you can actually get better at, like these performance standards that will also lead to you looking aesthetically better, is something that you really can, work on for a very long time. And, with these new standards, I want to encourage our current athletes to try and set some goals to get into that competitor standard. We've made it very possible in a lot of these areas for you to be able to do that. Some of these areas previously, like I think the 1.5 mile run used to be a huge limiter from people getting into that standard. So we have a mile now. It's still fast, but it's, maybe a little bit more doable for you. So set some goals and get after it. If you want to try our training, you're thinking about it. We're in Fit Week next week. That means we start the new cycle. So now is a perfect time to do that. You can go to garagegymathlete.com, start a 14-day free trial. If you sign up today, you could go through Fit Week and the first week before you'd ever have to pay for the programming. So something that you could definitely check out. Now, for all of our athletes, welcome to the new standards. Would love any feedback. I'm going to be pulling data points on all of you as you go through it. Little athlete experiment you guys are all running through, but I appreciate you putting in the hard work and effort that you do each and every single day. But that's it for that one. This one, guys, out. Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.